Well, we started out and it didn't work very good. You know, they would stay in the vicinity, but they would move, you know, through the two-wire electric, or there was some barb, but they would stay within a half mile or so. And then one day they got in the neighbor's garden, and that didn't work very good. But then we just, I don't know what happened, just over time, all of a sudden, boom, they just bound tight, and they don't leave. But, you know, I don't know what happens when you add numbers to where you make this work. I still think, and I said this in my talk, and you might not have been there, but when I spoke in Texas, Dr. Teague said you could add 6 sheep to every cow with no detrimental facts. That's a lot of sheep, but Texas has a lot more brush than we do. But
I used to say 5 for here.
Really, 5? That's, I don't know, that's a lot of sheep too, but I think there's real potential, and I look at it more as trying to improve the rangeland and ecosystem. I think there's some huge opportunity, and if you have can make some income on the sheep, it's an added benefit. So,
you know, a lot of that research is done with conventional grazers. It's going to be a little different if you're at a higher density and they're taking some of those forms, but you can sure as hell run them.
Yeah.
We've done that also in the past when my son was in high school. He says, Dad, I would like to buy a few cows. And I says, no, cows are sort of high priced. Should be buying low and selling high instead of buying high. And it was a few weeks later, he says, middle of winter, he says, Dad, there's an ad in the paper, a guy wants to put a sheep out in shares. Well, a few weeks later, they were in our yard. Cattle almost tore the corrals down. But eventually, the sheep would be with the cattle, and they'll sort of wander off like a little bit, but any disturbance, they would just quick dash into with the cattle. The cattle would sort of group together and they'd be in the middle. But at the end of about 4 years, his son graduated from high school, and he says, and I told him, son, the sheep are going too, because I can't do it all. But it works, yes. And it got so he also started loaning some out to different neighbors, the sheep, for shelter belt weed control. And he almost lost his sheep that way, because one neighbor would loan them to the next, and you had a hard time keeping track of where they were. But yes, it works. But it's more management. There aren't any shortcuts in anything. There's no magic bullet, but it works, yes.
Bale grazing. Our only option really during the winter is we're using a bale processor on cropland. That's where we're wintering. I want to get away from the bale processor. But I've heard a couple people say they don't like to bale feed on cropland. What would make it okay? Or native?
I can start. I've done actually bale grazing for probably about 30 years. I've done it on cropland, and I haven't had a lot of trouble. But if need be, I'll go back put them back in the spring for a spring cleanup cattle. But it's still, then I was just, of course, if I had that little no-till drill, no problem, just roll over it. And also a bale processor, did I complete the data that I was going to present? 12% waste nutrition-wise using a bale feeder, 12.5% just setting the bale up in the open, 12.5% bale nutrition loss. I don't think I said the rest of it. It was 18% bale nutrition loss using a bale processor, the Canadian data. Because that dust you're seeing going out, that's the fines, that's the nutrition. I did, for what it's worth.
I would add just one little thing to that. If you're looking at putting a bale out there, the higher your energy and protein is in that bale, the less will be left. And if you've got, if you're getting down into TDN about 50–55%, you want to put that on your hard pan and stuff like that. That's where you get the best response. But if you get really high really high TDN with good protein, there's very little left out there. They'll clean it right up.
Okay, that's good to know.
One thing I would be a little careful on what kind of hay you're feeding on cropland. If you've got hay that's got any brome seed in it, anything that's hard to kill with Roundup, I wouldn't use that.
I'd like to add to, if I bale graze on like hayland or cropland, do it for maybe about a 3-day supply and again, higher quality so they'll clean it up.
I would like to tell a little story on winter bale grazing. The group of us, the Grazing Coalition, we had a booth at the Winter Ag Show here in Bismarck. And a young couple came by. I was helping staff it that afternoon. The young couple came by. They had a couple diaper rats, and plus a newborn in the arms. And she looked pretty tired, and he looked harassed. And then one slide came up on the screen about winter bale grazing, and then she says, "Can you explain that?" And then I explained, yes, put enough for the minimum 3 days out, then you can have a little winter vacation. And that guy got sore ribs. She says, "See, we can too get away. You don't have to feed every day." I never did hear what happened with them. But also, he asked, it provides better quality of life, personal time, family, personal rocking chair time. I didn't state, and others probably didn't state either, my paddocks are not all uniform size. I like it like that. I can subdivide with quick temporary fencing if I want. Also, if we want to go somewhere for a week, save the planned grazing and use that big one right before we take off, and they don't have to be moved while we're gone, instead of moving every day, every other day. That's part of planned grazing for the quality of life.
I got a question for the entire board here. What are you guys doing in the next year, in each of you individually? In the next year, what are you going to do that you're excited about? What change are you going to make?
For us, we had a tour on our place this summer, and Jim Garish and Greg Judy and Bert Tykert were in, and they started throwing out ideas and testing our concept. When we went from conventional farming, we stepped out of one box and we found we stepped into another box. And now we've gotten comfortable in that box. And last year's drought and now this year's tour, we're found that we're ready to step out of that box and make the next step. So we're going to try to get away from, we've got to do some more cross fencing, but we're going to try to get away from the wagon wheel type of pattern and try to do a little more, what's the word? Straight grazing,
Lanes?
not lanes, what is it, Ellison? Corridor grazing. So then, so you set up corridors and they can go like 5-day moves, but you can let them come back across. And then also we're trying to figure out a water system for that. We're probably going to go with some kind of portable water system. We're in the process of figuring that out, to where we can come up and hook up to an existing line and run off of there and then just move down the line a little bit to another hydrant or hookup. So we're kind of excited about that.
You wanted everybody? I'm excited about that. I'm not gonna miss the senior golf on Monday morning this next year because I'm semi-retired and only grazing now instead of farming. But I guess number one, we just this last spring we seeded back 100 acres of very poor, semi-alkali farmland. I got to watch the weeds grow this summer. Next summer, I'm very excited to probably start grazing that and see it. I see that a mixture of stuff, but I already got big blue stem seeds and side oats grandma seeds, so I'm just ready to make that part of my grazing system and go from on that bunch with my big herd from 100 cows to about 140 in there and increase that up to. I'm going to get to about 15 pastures when that's producing, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen this next year.
I'm so excited I can't stand it. Gene, you'll like this. In my whole transition thing, the folks that we found each other are our neighbors that have a lot of cattle, and they also have a lot of people, and there's 3 grandsons. And so the goal is to always try and help some young folks. And so to get to the grandsons, as it's turned out, this family 2 years ago didn't believe in electric fence much. Polywire was not on the radar. Now they use all of those things. It goes pretty fast once, because they've watched this for a long, long time. And so now that they're on the property, so they asked me what I wanted to do next year, and I said I don't want to ever do what I did this last summer, because a little advice for you. My mentor told me, and he's 10 years older than me, he told me that 40, 50, 60, no sweat. 60, 70, you might have to shift the 2-speed once in a while. I asked him one day, when we get past 70 and past 80, what happens, and he said, you'll know. Okay. Now the good news I have a cousin that's my life coach, and later in life she became a minister. I'm digressing here, but we'll get there. And so a year ago this summer, she has all the faith in the world in Sharon, and so she told me, well, you know, you're a little tired today, but it's all fine. Just, you know, Sharon will make sure you eat your vegetables, everything is good. She told me how many years I had left I'd be able to work. And I said, good Lord, I'll be 95. And she says, oh, we got to recalculate. She said, you'll be 96. So I got 20 years to go. But I can't do 20 years like I did this year. So lo and behold, the dad of these guys, he asked me what I wanted to do, because that was when they started. What do you want to do? Can we do it? And I told him, I need to make the shift. And so I need to make the shift to somebody who's going to, you know, if this thing is going to continue, we're now at like 110 paddocks. So you got to have somebody that believes in it and that wants to do it, figure out the stock flow. And he said, well, I've been thinking, and I've been talking to the boys, this is the dad, the guy that's, his dad and I are the same age, so, you know, the guy's older than my kids, they got started early. He said, so we talked it all over, and he said, can I come and spend as much time as you'll give me every day, and you'll coach me, you'll teach me, but I'll do everything. You can just do what you want to do. What do you like to do? I said, I like to look at the cattle, look at the grass. And we already talked about that today. And he said, that's what we'll do. And I said, well, I was kind of helping you out with this deal for the grandsons. He said, I can never dictate to get them to do it until I can do it myself, and then I can go home and do it, and then they'll want to do it here. So I'm a little excited about that. It's a thing that Ken Miller and I talked about, you know, what happens with a deal like this. Our own children have their own life. They like the family to keep ownership of the property, which is fine. The property was homesteaded in 1907, and you know, all of a sudden it come along, and it's that thing that we talk about is make a plan and live the plan. And I had the plan and I was living it, but not the specific of the details of who. And all of a sudden it happened. So yeah, I'm excited.
I would say the thing that we're probably most excited about is getting pretty much all of our acres finally fenced down to anywhere from a 20 to a 40 acre cell, and then within that being able to use polywire to fence that down tighter for different treatment areas and things like that. So that's what I would say.
I say get over that. The thing about our pastures, and they weren't huge to start out with. A lot of them were 100 to 100 and maybe a full quarter. And so some people look at you and they say, well, that's already, you know, small. But to us, they're still too big. We need to rev this thing up and get on the train. And I think a lot of these guys in this room have been on it for a lot of years. And so we're not recreating the wheel. Just go out there and try something new, and whether it's on 5 acres or a quarter, and if you fail, you fail. And if you achieve, I guarantee you, if you do something, it's just one poly wire, you'll have more grass. And I think that's the biggest thing, and to enjoy it. And we still find time for quality of life and for the girls, and I think that's the biggest thing you always got to keep in balance. And I think a lot of us try to find a prescription. There is no prescription, just keep on adjusting and adjusting. And our plan is keep building, because the Roman Empire wasn't built overnight, and that's what whatever scale you're at, just keep marching forward, and we've never been so excited, I guess, about next year.
For the last 8 years, my goal is to build carbon, and I've done a really good job at that. I mean, we've increased our, especially the tame grass, we've increased the production by up to 3 times. Now my goal is to figure out how to utilize all that carbon, because I'm not very good at that right now with the way we're set up. We've been a cow-calf operation, so now we got to look at matching the type of animals to the type of feed available. So we're going to be transitioning into probably more grass type cattle, yearling type deal. We've looked at adding sheep. I've talked about that with my sons, 10 and 13, and I'm trying to get them more involved in the operation. And I did remember we did some of the multi-species once. When my younger son was 7, he wanted to get into mutton busting, so we went to town and brought 3 old ewes. We brought them home, one of them died, the other 2 got out of the corrals, we could not get them back in the corral. But they stayed with our horses, they stayed within about 100 yards of our horses the whole summer. And they gained really well. And we did, it took us about 2 hours one day, and we used what I learned from my dad as far as animal behavior, and we got them in the corral, and my son got to ride the ewes once before we took them back to town. And we still, they gained good, so we broke even on it. But yeah, that's my goal, is to utilize the carbon, and one thing is the animals, the other thing is that to develop portable watering systems to go along with our high intense grazing, to be able to target certain areas. So.
I am so excited to hear what Steve Fettig has to say.
You're just a troublemaker, Jeff.
Should we call out for pizza?
Why don't we do that? Yeah.
Somebody order some pizza, we're gonna be here a while.
Yeah. Well, one thing we're gonna do is, we gotta finish an additional water line that we put in. We gotta put the tanks in next year, but my son Michael's gonna be graduating from BSc this year, and he wants to come back to the farm. So we gotta find something for him to do, and he's actually kind of pushing us to get back in cow-calf pairs instead of the yearlings. So I haven't disagreed with him yet, but I haven't totally agreed with him either. So we'll see where that leads us and where we end up next year. So good enough, Jed?
Yep.
You okay with that?
I am.
All right, we're friends? All right.
All right. Those of you that heard my talk, we're big into finding niches or diversity that really complements the ranch. And so, and you know, I got these 4 kids that got a lot of energy and a lot of ideas, and my middle son Jay worked for Anheuser-Busch for a long time, and he's been through Anheuser's Beer University and all that. And the agritourism side of our business is growing quite a bit, and we bring a lot of folks there. Well, he has this dream to put a microbrewery into the ranch, and I played devil's advocate for a long time, asking every possible question of how this might not work. And he had a good answer for every one of them. And like you heard me talk, I've learned I cannot stand in these kids' way if I'm going to let them become successful and be entrepreneurial and make this ranch work. So Black Lake Brewery is 3/4 built in the back of the event center, and so if you come to visit the ranch, maybe in the next couple of months, you might be able to sample some beer, and with a little luck, it's fit to drink. But there's another side to that as well, and you've heard me talk quite a bit about grass finished beef, but we're going to have this, you know, the barley and the hops and all the things that go into this microbrew to add another niche into the beef side of it as we're marketing it. And I don't know if I talked about this much, but these people that come to our place, they all want to buy beef and things off that ranch. I never understood this, quite honestly, and I'm shocked at how many even want to buy a t-shirt with our brand on it. Things that we just took for granted in agriculture. And I have a whole different perspective on this whole marketing thing and selling. Again, the story and this beer thing just fits in. Now, do I think we're going to get rich in the beer business? Probably not, but I think it will, again, be part of the story as folks come to visit, and you can have some fun and maybe find some niches that fit into that. So it's exciting to watch, it's challenging, but thank the good Lord they came back. It would be pretty damn boring.
Just a tip, blueberry, little hint of blueberry in the beer is really good.
Just for you, we'll have that.
Blueberry rhubarb wine is.
Golden IPA.
What are we doing different next year? I don't know. It won't be the same as last year. And I don't know. Just do the flexing. One thing we're planning on doing is, well, in the end of November, we're going to Germany and Austria for 3 weeks. That's planned. And it's also sort of planned, for quality of life, not just work, work, work. But a few of those bigger paddocks next summer, it's already been planned for over a year, rest recovery. And 2 of them were not used at all this year. We would plan on doing a road trip through Canada, visiting friends along the way. And Alberta, I have a daughter up there, and I have a stepson and family up in Anchorage, Alaska. So that's sort of our plans for next year. But what I'm stressing is planned grazing isn't just for the livestock. It's for the quality of life also. And when we're sort of retired, it gets to be a lot more important.
I've got a lot of exciting things that I keep putting on the list. My daughter was going to be here today, and things turned out that she couldn't make it. And she tried to talk someone else into coming with her, and that didn't work. So I can't give her a bad time because she's not here, but she's on the ranch with me. And when I get so excited about what's going on out there, God's creation and what He really does, and what's amazing just to work with that I take on too much. They're telling me to slow up, and there is a problem with that. I got to work on that part of it anyway. But we have, like Chad said, we've got water going now with portable water, and that's really exciting to me because we've struggled with getting grazing on certain land in certain areas and getting the higher stock density that we need to have there. And we did a little of it this year, or quite a little of it, and really seen some significant increase and really helping. We've gotten rid of some Kentucky blue that's given us trouble. We're getting a lot of native grasses coming back, so we're really excited about going forward. We're seeing a lot of change, and our production has definitely increased a lot. So, and in the Badlands, when you got, Badlands that don't raise anything, and you start raising something on it. And one of the pictures that was up here today was winter fat, and you see that growing and getting taller. And the cattle, you let them in, and man, they're on a dead run to see who can get it. Boy, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool what's out there. And the wildlife, the increase of the wildlife, and to watch that is pretty neat. And I got to work with a couple neighbors because they don't want me to graze on some of their farmland and through the low spots and the creeks and stuff like that, because they want to save that for their pheasants and stuff. But then they come and ask me, can I hunt on your land because you got the pheasants? So if I can talk to them a little bit, I might be able to get a little more grazing.
Well, being a part of this organization has allowed me as a dietitian the cool opportunity to connect nutrition to the land, which we don't get to do very often, and it's kind of where I belong. So this year, I really hope to compile all this nutrition information about the benefits of all this pastured meats, and maybe, give it to the Grazing Coalition or put it on the website, and so everyone can have access. If you want a direct market, or if you want to know more about the benefits for you or your own family, there might be a central location for that information. So you could look for that.
what happened this year with Lake Oahe came up, we were running a herd in the river bottoms, and then we had to combine that herd with on the center pivot. So we went from 85 head to 155 on a 3-acre increment every day, and it was kind of amazing to watch by increasing the stock density. And so it's going to be kind of interesting to see how these paddocks take off next year. So I think we've got the higher the density, I think we're going to see great improvements. So that's one of the things we're going to try.
I don't have a really big project set up for next year, at least not at this point. But one of the things that we will do some more cross-fencing of some of our bigger pastures. But probably the biggest thing that I'm looking at now is just to increase my efficiency so I have more free time.
I'm looking forward for the drought to break. Maybe I'm just optimistic, I don't know. Hopefully, we've spent a lot of time the last year putting in a bunch of different infrastructure projects, and so this next year I'm hoping we can slow down a little bit and be able to put some of them to use. And along that, just be able to continue learning, maybe getting better at recognizing what we're seeing and figuring out what we did to make that happen and what we need to do to replicate it.
All right, I'm excited for change. That's it. Is that good, Pete?
Yeah, shit.
What are you excited for? Hey, what are you excited for? I missed you. Lloyd would not let me not make you say it.
We just bought a real fancy RFID system. Just showed up last week, and it's pretty spendy. Weigh and sort and do everything all on its own. That's going to improve our genetic selection really, really fast. I think it'll pay for itself in a heartbeat. So I'm pretty excited to implement that into the system entirely. I was pitching this to the banker, because it's pretty spendy. And I was pitching it to him, I was justifying it over the phone, and I can hear him go, "Can't you do that with a pen and paper?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna, that's why I need this." So we got one, showed up last week, and I'm excited to put that to use.
All right, can we give these speakers and mentors a round of applause? Unless there's any burning questions, we could sure wrap this up here. So I'd sure like to thank some people before you go. I'd like to thank the hotel staff for all their work and food. If we could give them a round of applause, that'd be great. Is the group from Clearwater still out in the hallway? The coalition has been working with, we've hired Clearwater Communication, and they've been doing our administrative work and doing a lot of things for us. And myself and a committee kind of started this workshop, and let me tell you, this would not have happened if it had not have been for them. So thank you, Clearwater Dana. Thank you, Jennifer, Lance, Mason. Is that it? Got it. So thank you very much. It was fantastic. Thank you. I'd like to thank our sponsors again: Agassiz Seed, Audubon, Dakota Community Trust and Bank, or Bank and Trust, Ducks Unlimited, North Dakota Natural Resources Trust, North Dakota Department of Health, Pulse USA, and the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service. Give them a round of applause, that'd be great. Please complete the evaluations on your table. Special thanks again to the mentors.
Hey, one more. Jed's supposed to thank himself because he's been working on this for a full year. He's been heading this up since the beginning. So,
yeah, it says especially like to thank Judd Ryder for planning this event. I wasn't gonna do that. Thank you very much. Travel safe and, I'm sure, look forward to the winter conference and our summer tours and any other event that's to come. So thank you very much.